When comedians be like,
they were so fat that they're that standing sweat fat. Crisco was coming out of their pores like a fucking Play-Doh fun factory.
My sister's off the charts. I replaced her pepper spray with silly string. Anyway, that night she got raped.
What's the matter, Laci? Why so passive-aggressive? What has sex and the body image got to do with telling jokes, Laci? Why do I have to have a sex education video, or lecture, really, as it is with you, on jokes? But I'm sure you're gonna explain that to me.
oh hi babes,
Oh, hi, Mark.
let's talk about jokes. When I first started speaking up about rape jokes when I was in high school, a bunch of my friends were like, oh my god, Laci, it's just a joke. It's just a joke.
They were right. It is just a joke. But let's just hear your side of the story. Let's give you the benefit of the doubt. I want to see where this is going. I mean, after all, this video is just a joke.
It's a joke line was just a way to make me shut up when I criticized them.
It's to calm you down, not to shut you up because you were criticising them. It is to tell you that it's just a joke. There is no harm done. Nobody was harmed in the making of this joke. Grow a sense of humour. That's why they say it is just a joke, Laci. But of course you don't have a sense of humour, so to you it's an act of censorship. Which is funny because what you're doing right now is trying to shut people up because they're telling jokes that you don't like. But, you know, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. Sexy, Laci.
Nicole Arbor learned last week being cruel and then calling it humor doesn't make it any less cruel. A pile of shit with a bow on it is still a pile of shit.
Which accurately describes this video and perhaps your most recent video history for the past couple of years. But still, I've not put that against you, Laci. I do not put that against you at all. I do not hold it against you anyway. But let's get real here. What Arbor found out was not that telling a joke and saying it's just a joke makes it any less cruel. Jokes can be cruel. Jokes can be horrible. Some jokes can be mean-spirited. But they're still jokes. They may be harsh, but that is how things work in society. It's how banter works. It's how a drubbing works. It's how a roast works. Roasts are even worse than what Nicole Arbor said. In fact, what Nicole Arbor said was practically tame in comparison to the many roasts you see on Comedy Central. Now, she was not necessarily being cruel. She was telling stupid jokes for sure. You know, many of them fell flat. Mainly it was her delivery. She's not a comedian after all. I mean, that's why she has to use jump cuts because, you know, everybody knows that jump cuts are the thing, especially when you cannot string together a coherent sentence. But, that said, what she didn't find out was not that just because a joke is a joke doesn't make it any less cruel. She found out that the social justice crowd can be even more cruel when they target somebody they don't like of saying something that they don't like, which is what you're doing right now. You're trying to do that too. But let's give you the benefit of the doubt, sexy Laci.
Most basic tenet of comedy is that it's supposed to make us laugh, right? A good joke can be clever, smart, uncomfortable, weird, biting, goofy, obnoxious, and yes, even offensive.
So, why make this video then? If you perfectly concede that jokes can be offensive, jokes can be harsh, jokes can be cruel, why make this video, Laci? Why are you attacking people for making jokes? Or for using this, it's just a joke, as an excuse? Jokes are jokes. They make people laugh. They might not make people laugh. Humour is subjective, Laci, if that is what you're trying to say. So if jokes can be offensive, is it they can be offensive, but they can't offend you. Is that what you're trying to tell us, Laci? Is that what the message is? Jokes are fine as long as they offend this person, but not moi.
Hitting the funny bone is a skill, and it isn't easy. But you know what is easy? Being an asshole.
Actually, being an arsehole is an art unto itself, because you could totally be an arsehole, but be a lovable arsehole. You can be an arsehole and try to be that lovable arsehole that everybody knows. He's such an arsehole, but he's so lovable, he's so great, he's so funny, he has that, that little glint in his eye, that little wink that makes people go, ha, he's maybe an arsehole, but he's a good man at heart. No, most people who try to do that kind of thing, Nicole Arbor especially, other people, they haven't got that art down. They don't have that art down, so when they try to be the lovable arsehole, they just come across as a dick. And it's just an arsehole who nobody likes, There's always that one person who's a dick, but he's a dick because he loves you. These people that you're referring to are the people who try to be like that, or who probably don't try to be like that, and they fail miserably at it, or they don't try to be like that, so they're just dicks, they're just arseholes who nobody likes. We have to put up with every day. But still, that doesn't demean the quality of a joke. Being an arsehole in your act does not mean you are an arsehole in real life. Remember, it is just a joke, sexy, sexy Laci. Normalizing injustice. In what way does humour normalise injustice? Humour has been humanity's best weapon in combating injustice. Humour is a weapon that helps destroy injustice, but because of these social justice warriors who are basically the left-wing version of Mary Whitehouse, I am not surprised that they see all of this as one big conspiracy against minorities such as me and women such as Laci. Incredible that we have come full circle, isn't it, people?
Humor is a type of communication. All humor has an underlying message, and that message, whether or not we consciously process it, is the reason why we're laughing. Things like rape jokes, fat jokes, police brutality jokes that come at the victim's expense, that's a key, normalize inequalities that already exist in the world.
That can be asserted without evidence, can be dismissed without evidence, Laci. You have no evidence to back this up. How can making a joke about a perceived victim, be somehow a kind of normalisation of injustice? That doesn't make sense. How come, if I was to make a joke about a cancer sufferer, that somehow normalises an injustice that they may or may not have? Because this is all perceived, Laci. This isn't all concrete evidence-based reasoning that has got you to this point. This is just you waffling on about what humour is with some weasel words and social justice rhetoric. And, of course, your fan base is going to lap it up. I think most of them will believe you without realising that you didn't actually say anything of substance there. But let's just say, this does normalise an injustice. It does normalise it. It's still a joke. It's still a joke. And you're still kind of attacking these people because of their thoughts. This is thought crime. You're almost accusing them of, in a way. So, a joke is a joke, but it's not okay when you're punching down. Because, all subjects should be ripe for humour. It's how we deal with these horrible, dark subjects, whether it be at the victim's or the perpetrator's expense. I think both sides are equally capable of being made fun at, because there's always something there. It helps us deal with this pain and suffering that these people cause or are receiving. It may well help them. It may point out something that nobody ever saw. But, next.
People with less power are seen as acceptable targets for cruelty.
Citation needed, because there are jokes about many people who have power, who do not have power. Why is that such a bad thing? Why is it such a bad thing to make fun of people who don't have power? But of course, by these people, you mean ethnic minorities and LGBT people and women, and not white men. Because apparently all white men have power. All white men rule the world, despite the fact that they're not even most of the population of the earth. When in fact, most white men are, like the rest of us, plebs, who don't have any power, who don't have much money, who don't have much in life. Is it okay to make jokes about them? Yes, because according to people like Laci Green, it's because they're white and male. That's why. I think this is what we have to make a distinction between people. Victims are people like me. Non-victims, people who we punch up, are the poor white people like Felfop. Because apparently, because they're white and male and have beards and drink, therefore, that's good. I love you, Felfop.
When we laugh at someone suffering, we're participating in a broader cultural phenomenon where we don't take those injustices seriously.
We do take these injustices seriously, but because it's a joke, it is not meant to be taken seriously. The joke is not being taken seriously. The topic itself is being taken seriously. How else are we going to get over this horrible subject? See, I'm from Northern Britain. I am from Northern England. And we have a particular brand of humour, and it can be very dark. But because, back in the day, and I'm talking about Victorian era especially, the workers who worked in the cotton mills in Manchester and Lancashire, and just take your pick, any massive area or county or city, there were horrible, horrible mills and horrible living conditions and horrible working conditions. And what did these people do? They took the piss out of themselves, they took the piss out of the people below them, and the people below them took the piss out of them, and the people below them, etc., etc., because it's one of the few ways they could emotionally deal with the strain and the pain of living in the Industrial Revolution. And it helped them greatly, and it bore the fruits of such humour that we now take for granted today. Are you going to therefore say that they're not taking their injustices not serious enough? Because I think you'll find that's the only way those people could live, by basically putting two fingers up at their situation and saying, you're not going to put me down. Is that what you're going to remove just because you think it's cruel?
But nothing should be off limits, the comedians cry. I am an American, and I have freedom of speech.
I'm British and I have freedom of speech. We wouldn't be having this conversation if it weren't for the likes of Lenny Bruce, if it weren't for the like of George Carlin, if it weren't for the like of any massive comedian from the Western world fighting for their freedom of speech. You see, back in the 60s, Lenny Bruce got put in jail for saying the word cocksucker on stage. And now, me and you can have a conversation on the internet, or have a reply video response and say cocksucker and not go to jail for it, for indecency. That is why these comedians hold free speech in such high regard. Because if they couldn't say the word cocksucker, if they couldn't say anything or speak about anything, then what's the point? That's just wrong, isn't it? Nothing should be out of bounds. Nothing should be out of bounds of comedy. Nothing should be out of bounds of being talked about. Because how do we, as a society, move on? How can we just say, no, we can't talk about that because it's wrong? Because reasons. You don't see why they say that they should be allowed to be talking about anything. Because if they don't have that right, they get sent to jail. Their rights are impeded upon. They won't be able to actually talk about the injustices that you think are being normalised. Without them, the actual injustices are being normalised by the people at the top who don't want their power threatened. Comedians are the people's greatest weapon in dealing with injustice, in dealing with corruption, in dealing with nepotism and take your pick, oppression even. Without freedom of speech, what do we have? What do we have? We have violence, I guess. But then again, once we win the civil war or we topple the government, who's to say that the next boss is going to give us that freedom of speech? Because what if that person doesn't want to be criticised? It's happened before. Have you not listened to The Who?
I totally agree. See, I say all manner of offensive shit to the mainstream.
Laci Green, you are the mainstream. You and the feminists and the social justice warriors, you are the mainstream. Laci, you work for MTV, for fuck's sake. You are not on the fringes of society. You are no longer that fringe YouTuber that you think you are. You are a mainstream commentator on popular culture, Laci. And the sooner you realise that you are doing what these people you are accusing of, which is normalising injustice, you know, policing thought, that's what you are doing. That is what you're doing. You are the person who took control from the other person that I spoke of and then decided, oh no, you can't joke about me, you can't say anything about me because that is wrong, that's why. Do you understand, Laci?
I'm out here, y'all. Criticism doesn't mean that the subject matter is a problem. It's not necessarily the topic, it's the approach. If the approach isn't funny, then critics also have free speech to say what they think. Just like any other form of entertainment, comedy does not have some special sacred immunity to criticism.
No, it doesn't, Laci. No, it doesn't. But neither do you. You do not have the immunity from criticism. You social justice warriors are constantly trying to censor criticism of your ideology, of the things you do, of the things you do not want people to talk about. You are constantly doing that. You yourself have done that. With your little spat with Amazing Atheist years ago. How dare you say that comedy should not expect to be, you know, the receiver of criticism, and you and other people expect social justice and feminism to be above criticism. Because if I was to criticise your beliefs, you'd call me a sexist. Indeed, I have been called a sexist and a misogynist for disagreeing with feminists. I have been called on all manner of things. I have been slandered just for saying that I don't consider myself a feminist. I do not consider myself a social justice warrior. So how dare you sit there and tell me that comedians should not be above immunity of criticism when you yourself think that you should have that?
While Daniel Tosh might think that rape is absolutely hilarious,
That's funny because George Carlin said it was absolutely hilarious too. No, both of them don't think the act itself is funny. No, they just think that you should be able to make a joke about it. That does not mean that they find the act funny. They probably find it, like you and me find it, abhorrent. But they recognise that you can make a joke out of anything. Because like I said before, it can be a defence mechanism. It can help people who have been raped deal with the trauma. It can help make it easier to talk about if we make fun of it. If we laugh in the face of these rapists and these people who enable rapists to do what they do. Oh, no, I'm not talking about rape culture. I'm just talking about the people who, you know, let them do what they want to do, like the Catholic Church, for example. If people didn't make fun of the Catholic Church for being paedophiles and raping kids, do you think we would be having a discussion about it? No. No, we wouldn't. I find it laughable that you think that you can say any joke, even if it's offensive, yet you have now just attacked Daniel Tosh for doing a rape joke.
many of us come to comedy to have a good time, not to be reminded that other people see us as less than human.
Now that's a straw man, Laci. Just because he made a rape joke doesn't mean he doesn't find you less than human. Get over yourself, that's fucking stupid.
This bigger comedy debate isn't about constitutional rights, which are robust. Well, generally robust.
Generally robust, Laci? Is that because people like you like to take away our freedom of speech? I mean, this has nothing to do with comedy. It has everything to do with you people and your thought policing and what you think is right to talk about and what is not right to talk about. In Canada, right now, there is a man on trial for disagreeing with a feminist. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't harass her. He didn't call her names. He didn't do anything. The policeman said so. But because she said she was harassed, he was arrested. Because Canadian law has been so fucked up by your ideology that harassment is now a subjective thing, not an objective thing. So that just saying you're harassed can get someone arrested. And now this man has gone to trial for disagreeing with someone. This is why comedians find the First Amendment and the idea of freedom of speech so important, so that they don't go to trial for dumb shit like that.
It's about what's morally right, which is not as robust.
No, it's not. It is not about morals. It is not about any of these things that you think it's about. It is about, is it funny? Is it entertaining? Does it make a message? Does it resonate with someone? It's about entertainment comedy, first and foremost. The underlying political and sociological economical messages come second. They come second, Laci. Morals don't come into comedy, and they never should. Because, as we've seen, people with a moralistic look on the world tend to be the most authoritarian people. They tend to, be hypocritical too. They tend to, have the least amount of morals. And I can't help but laugh when I see you talk about morals, Laci, because you, in your personal history, have shown to be quite morally, what's the word? Reprehensible, maybe? Is that the word?
Choose to say and do with our platforms, with the stage, with the mic, with the YouTube channel, with the Twitter account, with the TV show, that speaks volumes about our character. We can punch up at abuses of power, or we can continue to punch at those who are already down. So how do you know which direction something's punching? It's pretty simple. Just ask, who finds this funny?
Laci. It is not about punching up and punching down. There can be people who are up there who are doing the right thing. And there are people down there who are doing the right thing. They both still can be ridiculed for it, because a joke can be made out of anything. But there can also be a time where the person at the top is doing something bad, but also someone at the bottom doing something bad. But because this person is at the bottom, you think that they shouldn't have to taken the piss out of them. They shouldn't have to be ridiculed. Just because they have no power. They're at the bottom. Who is at the bottom? Who is at the top? This is so subjective, Laci, as I've said before. Not only is the humour subjective, but this person, this hypothetical person at the bottom, is also subjective. I could be above a homeless man. He could be above, I don't know. He's probably the lowest you can possibly go, apart from maybe a homeless person in the third world. Because I don't know if you ever went to geography class, Laci, but they talk about different kinds of poverty in there, and different kinds of shades of it. And a homeless person in the first world is probably got it better than a homeless person in the third world. A first world homeless man can go to a shelter more times than the person in the third world. He has the option of water, free water. He can just go to a bathroom stall and drink from the tap. He could go to a water fountain. A homeless person in the third world might not have that. They might not. I don't know. But this is what I was taught when I was 14. Hell, even 12. So, as you can see, punching down and punching up can be subjective. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but they all can be ridiculed. Because, believe it or not, Laci, people at the bottom can be capable of some horrible, horrendous shit. How do you think the Rwandan genocide happened? It may have been the orders from up top, but it was carried out by the people at the bottom.
Jokes by no means need to be universal, but who's in the group that's laughing? Are abusers, date rapists, the KKK, high school bullies laughing with me? Who is being validated by the message that I'm communicating?
And this is the problem with moral arbiters like Laci Green. We can't tell a joke because this certain hate group, this certain person, this bully might get validated. Just because we make a joke about minorities, or we make a joke about nerds, or, you know, it's just funny because people like her hate nerds anyway. But you get the picture. They're not being validated. They are not being validated for a joke they may find funny. They might find fucking knock jokes funny. Does that validate them? If I said knock who's there, knock who's there, knock who's there, stop it, I'm getting to the door. That's a shit joke, but what if they find that funny? Am I validating them for telling a shit joke? Do you not understand that just because a joke is told at somebody else's expense does not mean some other person, some hypothetical person is being validated because they're wrong or perceived to be wrong, Laci? Stop trying to control people's thoughts. Stop trying to control what people can say and make fun of. Just because it may hurt somebody's feelings or your feelings because you don't like it. This is entirely why you made this video. You're complaining about humour that you don't like. Well, I'm sorry, Laci, but humour is subjective. And all subjects are at the expense of humour. Because if they aren't, we cannot evolve as a society. I'm sorry, Laci, but just because your feelings are hurt and because your tastes aren't being pandered to, doesn't mean that we should all, therefore, bow down to you. It doesn't work like that, Laci.
I want to end by saying that it is okay to tell an off-color joke. We're all—
Laci, you have contradicted yourself throughout this entire video saying it's okay, it's not okay. Face it, Laci, just tell us it's not okay. You cannot go and say one thing and then say another. You do not think it's okay to say an off-colour joke. At least, it's okay to say an off-colour joke that you find that is acceptable. That's what you should say. Stop trying to sugarcoat it, okay? You do not like Daniel Tosh making jokes about his sister getting raped. You do not like Nicole Arbour making fun of fat people. You probably don't like me making fun of you occasionally. That is what you're saying. You're saying it's okay to joke about shit that I find funny, that I think is acceptable. But if you happen to make a joke that I don't find acceptable, that's wrong.
learning. I've told messed up jokes, you told messed up jokes. We're all idiot humans. I don't think we need to handle this by burning people at the stake. That's so 1500s.
Actually, they didn't stop doing it until the 1600s and the early 1700s, Laci. Get your history right. But it's funny, because it's now back in fashion to metaphorically burn someone at the stake. And I mean, get a Twitter hate mob on them and try and ruin their life, which is what Stephanie Guthrie did to that man in Canada. It's what Charlotte Proudman is currently doing to this man for complimenting her appearance. You may not be advocating for that, but you certainly wouldn't mind if it happened to someone just because it's punching up. At least subjectively punching up, Laci.
I think the key is to recognize and apologize. Don't let your ego get in the way.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry for being such a horrible, horrible cis-het shitlord. I am so sorry.
There are some amazing comedians in our YouTube community and in the world. They're making us laugh, they're giving us a place to run away from all the bullshit, and some of them are even changing the world.
Again, you see, these are people that you accept. These are the people that you find funny, that you think is acceptable, that we should find acceptable because you find it acceptable. Notice it's nobody that you don't like. I'm not saying, you know, you should like them. I'm just saying that it says a lot. Because these are the people who have the brand of humour that you think is acceptable, or say the jokes that you find acceptable. But you would never, you know, give a thumbs up to someone who you may not find to be your taste, but you nonetheless see what they're trying to do. But because it goes against your ideology and your beliefs, that's why, Laci.
Which is like really sexy to me. It just got really warm in here.
Go have a wank, Laci. Jesus Christ.
Not everyone needs to reach that pinnacle of perfection and change the world with their comedy, but at the very least, we can be good to each other.
Laci, comedy is not about being good to each other. Why else would we not have banter? Why else would we not have roasting? Sometimes comedy is meant to be mean-spirited and nasty, and that's how we get messages across. That's how we show our love to people. A roast is so horrible and mean-spirited, yet it's about the love of this person. It is sending up this person by being a nasty cunt to them. Yes, I use that word, Laci. You won't like that. Comedy should have a free reign to do what it wants. I used to hate racist and horrible comedians. I still do, but I think that unlike when I was a kid, who I thought these people should be banned and they should be thrown in prison, I now think, no, these people should be allowed to say what they want to say, because they'll just trip over their own words. People will realise that they don't need these people. They don't need to find these people funny. These people will become unpopular on their own. And it has proven that. These people are no longer popular. These people have gone to the wayside. They are fringe at best. And I think I'll leave it at that, people. This has been SharmyMan93. Like and share the video. Subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you later. Hope you like the Spinosaurus kid impression.